This is Geek News Central. My name is Todd Cochran, coming to you from the New Media Production Studio. The lead stories are: Meta threatens to restrict news in Canada if it's forced to pay publishers. U.S. regulators will protect all deposits at Silicon Valley Bank. Microsoft brings support for iMessage to Windows 11. YouTube mulls 1080p premium option for paid subscribers. I want to welcome you to episode 1655 of the Geek News Central podcast for Monday, March 13th. This show is sponsored in part by GoDaddy.com and listeners just like you. Great deals from GoDaddy can be found at geeknewscentral.com/GoDaddy. You can support this show today at geeknewscentral.com/insider. Hey, I want to give a warm welcome to the new listeners of the show. Make sure you get over to geeknewscentral.com. Please follow or subscribe to the podcast. Of course, subscribe to the newsletter while you're on the website. You can always join our chat room at geeknews.chat. That's a Mastodon chat server, or our Discord server. Now, if you join the Mastodon chat server, just say, hey, you're a listener of the show, and I will approve your membership. Of course, you can follow me on Facebook. It's very simple to do. Just search for my name. All the partner shows, they're linked at geeknewscentral.com and includes the New Media Show at newmediashow.com, the Gadget Professor with Mr. Don Bain, and of course, the GNC Weekend Review with Kirk and his co-host, Scott. Definitely check all those shows out, linked up at geeknewscentral.com. This show is supported and sponsored by the longest running continuous sponsor of a podcast. That's our good friends at GoDaddy. GoDaddy allows you to save a lot of money by using my promo codes. Again, get over to geeknewscentral.com/GoDaddy. Grab one of these codes to pick up a great product from GoDaddy, whether it be 30% off a new product purchase, a $4.99.com for new or transfer domains for new customers only, $1.99 a month economy hosting, $1.99 economy hosting per month for the first year with a free domain name, $2.99 a month managed WordPress hosting for the first year, $2.99 a month managed WordPress hosting again for the first year with a free domain name, or get a free trial of GoDaddy Website Builder, your choice of personal, business, or business plus plans. That's a 1 month free trial. Again, all of these promo codes, all of these deals can be found at geeknewscentral.com/GoDaddy. We want you to grab a code. Your support keeps this show online and my independent writing team employed. You're supporting a very small team of independent content creators by using one of my promo codes. And again, we thank you when you support us in that effort. Share these codes with your friends, family members, people that you know. Definitely want you to share. Get online with the economy in a very unstable state. We want to make sure that you have a backup plan. Get yourself online. Start a website. Start an e-commerce site. Start something that is going to give you a little bit of a breathing room if something happens with the company you're working at, or there's been a change in the economy that gives you just a little bit more of a buffer room. So again, we want to thank GoDaddy for being a longtime sponsor of the show. Make sure you get over to geeknewscentral.com/GoDaddy. Hey everyone, hope you're doing well. Of course, last week I was out at Podcast Movement Evolutions. Had a great show out there talking with content creators. It's an interesting time in the podcasting space right now. The economy is in a situation now where, people are looking to save money. So we talked to a lot of creators about potentially saving money on their creator bill, their podcast hosting bill, and people just looking to make sure that they're staying tight on expenses. So that was a great opportunity to share some of our products and services that we have, our great hosting products and all the things and the all integrations that we have with a variety of different partners. And so it was a good week. Very, very, very busy. Came right back, landed Saturday late afternoon. My daughter and grandkids flew in on Friday. So they were already here and been spending time with them. And of course, catching up on work, email, and everything else that goes along with it. So I have a very, very full week ahead with spending time with family at the same time taking care of the normal work involved at the JOB. Also, came home to this office had a significant power outage during the time when we had gotten all that snow, and I had really kind of left everything in the state that it was to make sure. Wow, that monitor just went weirdo. Essentially, just for those of you who weren't watching, the monitor over my blinked, and I have no idea what happened. But anyway, so today I basically was turning everything on, and my Synology 1515 Plus did not turn on. I thought, oh man, and it's on a UPS, so it's on a backup circuit. So I have really no idea what was going on, and pushed the button to start it 4 or 5 times and checked the power 4 or 5 times, and just did everything I could and thought, oh, that box is dead. And thinking in the back of my mind, I hope the backup is fine, and because I do back up to external hard drives, even though it's a network attached storage device, I do have another backup drive for it, and really not knowing what was going on with it, I've left it. And then this evening when I was getting ready to do the show, all of a sudden I see it's on. So I have no idea what it's doing. But one thing is for sure, I'm going to double check the backup tonight before I head out of the studio to make sure everything is kosher and that we're backed up. But that catches you up. What's going on? Back in the saddle here. Don't have any events until April when we head out for NAB. So I'm just going to keep on be putting the episodes down like normal, no breaks. And but I was sick pretty much the whole time I was in Vegas. Just did not feel good. Had a head cold, runny nose, coughing. You can still hear it in my voice. But it was a pretty rough week. I'm starting to feel better now. I did a COVID test and everything. Didn't have COVID, but just a normal head cold. And the dry air of Vegas really added to things in a big, big way. All right. So anyway, that's what we've got for you. Don't forget, we're lit and live. And I'll probably catch everyone up on value for value donations on the next show. A little bit of a late start here tonight, largely because just juggling everything with my daughter and grandkids and my son-in-law. But we'll go ahead and get that value for value stuff caught up on the next episode. But of course, we heard about the failure of Silicon Valley Bank. It's been all over the news. And up until last night, there was a lot of venture capital companies who basically were out of luck. If the FDIC was only going to guarantee their deposits to $250,000, it would have made a very bad Monday if not hadn't the government stepped in and assured all deposits, which is kind of an interesting move here. And I think really what happened, and I am not by any means a financial expert when it comes to banks and FDIC or anything about how that works, but I think we all pretty much know that when we deposit money into a bank, the banks usually leverage that and use that to loan, and not talking about your everyday checking balance that goes up and down. We're talking about your savings account that's usually not touched very much, and maybe CDs or something that you have with a bank. But they use that money, they leverage it, and they loan that money out, or they buy treasury bills or whatever it may be. And for whatever reason, again, I don't know the full details. I guess they did not manage those assets very well and got upside down. And then there was a run on the bank for people pulling their money out. So I think what the Fed has done, and it says it really in the statement. So today we're taking decisive action to protect the U.S. economy by strengthening public confidence in our banking system. The FDIC, Treasury Department, and Federal Reserve sent a joint statement. Depositors will have access to all of their money starting Monday, March 13. No losses associated with the resolution of Silicon Valley Bank will be borne by the taxpayer. In addition, HSBC UK agreed to purchase Silicon Valley Bank, UK's division, for a symbolic £1 to prevent the company's collapse in that region. The UK government announced, as in the US, both deposits and public funds are protected. Today, the government and the Bank of England have facilitated a private sale of Silicon Valley Bank UK. This ensures customers' deposits are protected and can bank as normal with no taxpayer support. Now, this is the largest failure of a bank in 15 years. And on Friday, Roku announced that it could lose as much as 26% of its cash reserve, or more than $487 million, due to the collapse. One of the top SVB signature banks, Signature, was closed by regulators on the weekend. And again, it's one of the largest banks used by cryptocurrency companies, as the Coinbase exchange, for one, had $240 million deposits at the bank. In the same joint statement, federal regulators said that all depositors of this institution would be made whole as well. So Signature Bank. So I am sure what has happened here is the FDIC, the Treasury, and everyone else said, with all of this uncertainty that's going on right now with the economy and potentially hundreds of companies affected, and it's unique in its position in working with a lot of VCs, that those companies would have essentially probably had to have closed because they weren't going to be able to make payroll. But I just wonder, in 2008, we went through a whole bunch of banking regulations because of the fallout from what happened in 2008. Why are we seeing this pop up again? Thought there's supposed to be oversight and so forth. But I think that most banks, a big bank like this, Silicon Valley Bank, they only have 10% of their total deposits in cash reserve. Smaller banks typically only have to have 3%. But very, very small banks, maybe your local banks, they only have to have 0% in cash reserves. So sometimes if you're going to go to a bank, your local bank, if you're not dealing with a Wells Fargo or Bank of America, or even those branches, if you're going to go make a major withdrawal, you need to let them know a few days in advance so they have enough cash on hand. So I'm sure what has happened here is they were worried there would be a massive run on banks across the United States, causing a cascading effect where people said, I want my money. Give it to me now. And again, some of this is being caused largely because of the interest rates being pushed up and treasury bills and what's going on with them. As an independent investor, if that treasury bill gets up north of 5%, you talk to your investment person, might be time to buy treasury bills. But again, I am nowhere in any means, anyhow, any type of investment guru. So don't take my advice, get your own. But what will happen if the feds have to see, now that they've guaranteed this bank, what happens when your local bank goes down and you have more than $250,000 in an account or $500,000 in a joint account? What happens? Now, again, I know most people do not have that type of cash laying around in their banking account. But if you do, or you're in a company, what then? Is the government going to guarantee all those deposits as well beyond the $250,000? I would have loved to hear the whole story behind this, but it does set precedents now. If another bank goes down, that they may have to step in and make those deposits whole. So if you're a company, though, and you've got, let's say you're a small business and you have 250,000 plus in a single account, probably advisable to open a second business account in another bank and move the money around a little bit, split it up so that you don't have all your eggs in one basket. So I don't know, love to hear what you guys think about Silicon Valley Bank and what has happened there. Drop me an email, geeknews@gmail.com or @geeknews on Twitter. Microsoft, surprisingly, is bringing support for iMessage to Windows 11. I think this is a pretty big news. And the features it offers are pretty limited, but it's a start. You can just send a message. But you can send a iMessage message in Windows 11. So might be another reason for those of you either Windows users that have an iPhone to do an upgrade. You know, be honest with you, I never really thought this would ever happen, but there it is. iMessage for Windows 11. At the same time, YouTube is thinking about 1080p premium option for paid subscribers. So, you know, if you pay for YouTube Premium, you may have recently come across a new playback option. YouTube is sneakily testing 1080p premium. That's a video quality option that streams at an enhanced bit rate. YouTube plays at 1080p by default. Free and paid users can adjust playback down to 480, 360, 240, and 144. So, which is interesting, or 720. But YouTube has also added a higher definition options for the last decade, 1080, 1440, and 4K. Together, those choices allow users to tailor their viewing experience. But again, over the past few days, premium users have been reported seeing 1080p premium in the video quality menu. YouTube said that a small group of YouTube Premium customers can try out the feature, which purports to offer an enhanced bitrate version of 1080p, which basically means you're getting more data per pixel and higher quality viewing experience. I pay for YouTube Premium, and I'll be honest with you, I've never really seen a video quality issue ever. Facebook, aka Meta, is threatening to restrict the news in Canada if it's forced to pay publishers. We've talked about this already in a previous article, but a Meta spokesperson said that the online advertising giant contends that laws like Canada's proposed legislation misrepresents the relationship between its platforms and news publishers. And the company's stance is the same in Canada as it is going against the United States Journalism Competition and Prevention Act, along with what's going on in Australia. They say a legislative framework that compels us to pay for links or content that we do not post, which is important, and which are not the reason the vast majority of people use our platform, is neither sustainable nor workable, according to the spokesperson. We know Meta already gave up this fight in Australia and now has as many as 11 or more unique content deals with publishers over there. Lowe's is testing a 400-pound egg-shaped autonomous robot to patrol its parking lots. And not a lot of details, except this thing roams around and keeps an eye on things. I don't know if it's got someone that's actually manned, if it's using AI, or what it's doing. But this thing's called Nightscope. Drives around the parking lot, keeping an eye on things, which is pretty cool. And it's an autonomous security robot. Safety is more than a priority at Lowe's. It's a core value for our company to continue to drive safely in our stores. Select locations to drive safe in our store. Drive safety. I got it. Not drive, but to drive safety in our stores. Select location receiving this new security robot. It's part of a pilot project. This pilot is part of Lowe's continued effort to utilize new and innovative tech. It said began testing the Nightscope K5 robots in February in Philadelphia. It's also running pilots in Washington State, North Carolina, Washington, D.C., and California. Some folks that have been on TikTok have been looking at this thing and having a little bit of fun with it. If you are in the market or have bought a brand new personal computer, you know that especially Windows machines can come with a lot of garbage pre-installed, and you can get rid of a lot of it. And there's a good article here on The Verge on how to get rid of some of these pre-installed apps. You just simply need to tap Add or Remove Program. A list of the programs that have been installed in your computer will pop up. On any program that you want to uninstall, click the three dots to the right. A little menu will pop up and you can say uninstall. Now, for those of you that are Windows users, I would let one program at a time uninstall. I wouldn't do a whole bunch, click, 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 and do them in consecutive order. Sometimes the Windows can choke on that, but just be aware. Now, you can also install directly from the Start menu. Click the Windows icon next to the search bar, click All Apps, and then right-click on any program you want to uninstall. Select uninstall on the menu that pops up. This is a great way to clean your machine of all that bloatware that they provide. All right, we talked about that meteorite that landed in Texas some time ago. Well, NASA has confirmed it was 1,000 pounds when it entered the atmosphere, but it ended up being pretty small before it was found in McAllen, Texas. So I don't think there was any doubt. I guess we have to get confirmation now from NASA. We know that Starlink prices are going up for many of us, myself included. Some folks are going down. So they've oversold in areas like mine. So basically to try to stifle people from using it as much or to stifle new people from signing up, they've added a $10 additional fee. And for those of you that are in areas that don't have very much density yet, they've lowered it to $90. So I'll be at $120. And those of you in areas that are more rural, I guess only New England and West Central United States is available. It is a little bit of a bait and switch by those folks, but if you want to get Starlink and you don't want to wait, you can pay for the $150 RV version, and that's up from the original price of $135. Now, the Gen 2 rollout, of course, will not begin in earnest until Starship is launched. Don't know when that's going to happen. There's sometime this month, maybe. We're crossing our fingers. But one thing is for sure, if you have Starlink, and most of us, our price continues to go up. Not much of a choice for me, although during the heavy snow, I did lose internet for a couple of hours the other night, which is, a cheap price to pay considering everything that is going on. NVIDIA CEO says AI will allow anyone to be a programmer. And I had a great conversation with a friend of mine while I was in Vegas, and he was demonstrating some of the stuff he was doing with ChatGPT. And I was pretty blown away. He's been playing with it enough, says he's saving many hours a day in answering emails and stuff like that. He's taught it to write in its own voice. He's been able to even have it do a little bit of coding in PHP, wrote a PowerPress plugin with it. So I was pretty wow. I mean, I was kind of shocked. But NVIDIA CEO says AI will allow anyone to be a programmer. Now, at the same time, it's not quite true because, as an example, if you want to have a mobile app written and you come up with a basic idea, it will write the mobile app to an extent, but it's just giving you the code. You still have to compile it. You still have to get it submitted. There's still going to be a requirement for you to know a little bit, but it's interesting what has happened here. ChatGPT in a transcript saved by PC Gamer, Huang said ChatGPT caught everyone by surprise. It's one simple trick. It's a perform task and skills that it was never trained to do. It means it can essentially translate human language into computer code. It can be prompted in human language, but output Python, output Cobalt, a language that very people even remember, and even Blender, a 3D program. So it's a program that writes a program for another program. And AI has already helped with 100 semiconductor designs. Google is also building AI to code. It's doing a decent job. And so it still will need to be reviewed by a real coder and compiled and made into something that can be actually used. But I don't think it's going to be too long. And these things are going to be, if you define what you want enough, it will do a large part of the code. Matter of fact, the same individual said that he basically did the prepper code for a team that was writing an app for him. He described what he wanted the app to do, the very simple functions that it wanted, and it pumped out. I mean, he said just when it went, and he really didn't know what he was getting. And he turned this into his coding team, and his coding team was blown away and said, "How long were you working on this?" And he said, "Well, I just had ChatGPT do it." And they said that it probably saved them several months of preliminary code work just from the work he'd done, which blew me away that it actually got that much done. Now they have to go in and clean it up. But I was like, wow. LastPass says hackers targeted employees' home PC to access secure servers. So they released the details of a 2022 attack. And this is probably going to happen more. Your home internet is probably not as secure as the internet you may have at the office, protected by professionals. And the employee in question was working from home, and their employer did not enforce any access restriction. The DevOps engineer was accessing sensitive company data using a personal computer, which also ran a media software package. Other sources claim the media software in question is Plex, which reported a data breach around the same time. Using an undocumented vulnerability in the media software, the attacker installed a keylogger and waited for the engineer to enter the master password and two-factor code. That operation gave the threat actor the keys to the kingdom. And they got into the AWS hosted backups and some other places. So this is where two-factor authentication needs to potentially go away, and where we're going to be authenticating through apps going forward. There's a rumor that Apple restrict non-certified USB-C accessories on the iPhone. So their made for iPhone program will remain in place to certify USB accessories. This makes me a little bit irritated. It's USB-C is a USB-C in most cases. If you buy some cheap knockoffs, maybe they won't work as good. So we know that Apple's finally going to release the iPhone with USB-C in 2023. The Made for iPhone program has been a cash cow for the company, which charges OEMs to certify that their product works with the iPhone. That was almost understandable when Apple was using its own custom port, but the move to USB-C gave Apple an opportunity to standardize. Hang on here a second. Let me see what's going on. But again, according to an Apple leaker, the company retained the option to limit the functionality of devices plugged into iPhone 15. So we'll see. We'll see what happens there for sure. Next up, Chuck E. Cheese. Yeah, everyone's taking their kids to Chuck E. Cheese at least once. They have Chuck E. Cheese in Hawaii. Chuck E. Cheese is still using floppy disk at least one Chuck E. Cheese location to control the animatronics and basically the things that sing for you while you're in the Chuck E. Cheese. And this was shown on TikTok, where he was showing behind-the-scene videos of Chuck E. Cheese. Stewart's videos at the Children's Arcade and Eatery are pure nostalgia. Checkered floors, neon booths, greasy cheese pizzas. but based on comments from one of the recent videos, few people seem to expected that Nostalgia Stop to go a step further. He was shown loading a program into its animatronic system with a floppy. And he says, can you believe it? We're still getting floppy disk in 2023. Well, most of the stores have been updated, but apparently that one has not. And it was one of the last machines to still use a floppy, but still pretty crazy. NASA's confirming an Artemis 2 for late 2024 after the successful Artemis 1 mission. And we know this has been a long road, but NASA's finally launched its first Artemis lunar mission late last year. So we know that the cost ballooned to more than $23 billion, about $5 billion more than early estimates. And they collected an impressive 155 gigabits of data during the 3-week-long mission. Only that much? NASA says running successfully completed 161 test objectives and generating 20% more power than expected while using 25% less. NASA plans to reuse some avionics components from Artemis 1 and Artemis 2. You would hope so. All these devices, including phased antenna array and GPS receiver, were successfully extracted and refurbished. These parts have been now loaded into the Artemis 2 Orion. They also took a close look at the Exploration ground system, which includes the mobile launcher and tower that stabilized the rocket during launch. NASA reports that the launcher sustained more damage expected from the 8.8 million pounds of thrust, but work is already underway to repair and strengthen the structure for Artemis 2. And they're looking at 2 minor issues, which doesn't threaten the timeline. And the heat shield showed evidence of uneven wear, and the team is examining the shield itself. And they're saying Artemis 2 could launch as soon as November 2024. That will be the first crewed Artemis mission featuring a lunar orbit but no landing. And so Artemis 3 is the one that's planned to go to the moon. We could see that maybe by 2025, where we put men on the moon again, men and women, excuse me. Relatively Space prepares to launch first 3D printed rocket. They would have went this weekend. Terran 1 was supposed to go, but ended up scrubbing after exceeded a stage 2 launch commit criteria limit. Something to do with fueling. They would have went, but there was a delay because of someone went into the restricted area, and then second, there was an additional issue that popped up that they had to deal with. So we'll see if they go this coming Saturday. NASA has been able to revive the 15-year-old IBEX probe after a recent system reset. We know that the IBEX went offline, and the IBEX probe was launched 15 years ago. And they were waiting until March 4th, but they decided to send a signal early and basically tell it to reboot. They sent what they call a fire code reset command. And I guess that's a Control-Alt-Delete equivalent of a spacecraft. And it rebooted, it's up and running and back in operation. So nice to see that NASA's has always been pretty good at recovering software glitches when they pop up. Have you bought a Pixel Watch? Well, Pixel Watch sales power Google to number 2 in worldwide wearable market share. The report has Google 8% market share for Q4 2022, which is good enough to slot in right behind Apple at 27.5% level. Google was 4th place this time last year, and the credit is given the 16% smartwatch growth with the release of its Pixel Watch. So a lot of people picked one of those up where they hadn't before. And of course, Apple, Google, Xiaomi, Huawei, Samsung, and others have wearable watches. I was watching a, what was it? It was a YouTube channel of this guy that sells high-end watches. Man, Some people have more money than I can even imagine because they're buying $63,000 watches, $21,000 watches, $13,000 watches. And they're trading them like crazy. There's a huge market for high-end watches. And I'm pretty happy with my Apple Watch. I guess it's a status symbol to walk into a place with a high-end Rolex or something to that effect. Heck, I remember seeing fake Rolexes in Thailand that were, super fake. You could tell them a mile away. I think we're in those like more than 20 plus years ago. We were like $50 or something like that. You could tell it was a fake. Anyone that, looked at it for more than 3 seconds could tell it was a fake. I probably have a couple of fake ones in a drawer somewhere. But, to spend those kind of dollars on a real Rolex is a whole different category of earnings. That is for sure. Discord upset people pretty big time here. Discord promises outraged users it won't store call recordings for now. Discord staff promises shocked Reddit users we're going to fix this. Before its update last month, Discord's privacy policy specifically promised users in advance if the company ever started storing contents of video calls, voice calls, or channels. That's why some users became alarmed when the latest update, which goes in effect on March 27th, seemed to quietly drop this promise. When Discord users asked Ars Technica to investigate, according to Discord spokesperson, the answer is no. There's been no change in Discord's position. So, I don't know if they're going to update. Since then, Discord has added back in the missing language word for word. So we generally do not store the contents of video or voice calls or channels. If we were to change that in the future, we would disclose that. So, we know that Discord does not have a perfect privacy record where they were fined 800,000 euros last year in the EU, including to fail to close out voice rooms when users click the X icon. So your Discord recordings are still safe. Rivivans, R-I-V-I-A-N, Rivivan, electric delivery vans could soon be available to companies other than Amazon. The company is seeking to end exclusive agreement with its customer and investor. So I guess these are all electric. The Wall Street Journal says they're in talks with Amazon to end the exclusivity of their 2019 purchase agreement. The EV maker is reported unhappy that Amazon only ordered 10,000 vans this year at the low end of a previously mentioned range. And the termination will let Rivivan boost its sales by courting other customers. And so we'll see. Amazon says they're still going to buy 100,000 vans by 2030. The vans currently represent 1/3 of Rivivan's production volume and are helping to bolster manufacturing numbers. Are still tiny compared to rivals like Tesla. Rivivan only made 24,000 vehicles, 24,337 in 2022, and large van orders would significantly expand the company's output. So they still have a cash reserve, thanks in part to Amazon's large investment. So we'll see what Amazon does with this request. WordPress.com, Automatic, has acquired an ActivityPub plugin so blogs can join the Fediverse. And this is an interesting move. The newly acquired plugin allows WordPress.org and WordPress.com blog owners to reach readers on federated platforms like the Twitter rival Mastodon. Once installed, readers are able to follow the WordPress blogs on their preferred federated platform, view the blog posts, and reply with comments. The replies posted to a federated site like Mastodon then become a blog post. This is something that could allow us to implement some podcasting 2.0 stuff we've been thinking about. At present, ActivityPub plugin supports federated platforms including Mastodon, Pleroma, Friendica, Hubzilla, Pixel Feed, Social Home, and Mistkey. And so they're bringing the developer in-house and giving additional resources. So this is an interesting move, one that interests me highly by Automatic. Volkswagen will build its first North American EV battery plant in Canada. The Ontario Battery Cell Factory will be Volkswagen subsidiary power company's first outside of Europe. And they expect to manufacture more than 200,000 EVs at the plant every year as part of its strategy to have a stronger foothold in North American production. And this will open by 2026. We've talked about the robot lawyer Do Not Pay. Well, robot lawyer Do Not Pay is headed back to court. And not to prove its merit as a legally inclined chatbot, it's being sued for practicing law in California without a license. In a lawsuit filed earlier this month, but only reached publicly late last week, Do Not Pay customers Jonathan Fardin claimed that his experience with Do Not Pay was anything but legally competent. Unfortunately for its customers, Do Not Pay is not actually a robot, a lawyer, nor a law firm. Do Not Pay does not have a law degree, is not barred in any jurisdiction, and is not supervised by any lawyer. The suit claims that Fardin was paying a Do Not Pay customer and used the site to draft demand letters, independent contract agreement, and a pair of LLC operating agreements and several court filings. He believed he was purchasing legal documents and services that would be fit for use from a lawyer that was competent to provide them. And he says that's not what he received. So Do Not Pay is going to court. Sony has made a $600 point-and-shoot camera for the visually impaired. DSC-8X99 RNV features a viewfinder that can project images directly onto a person's retina. So with models like the A7RV and the A7S3, Sony is known for pushing camera technology to bleeding edge. With its new release, however, the company isn't touting capabilities of the latest sensors or autofocus, a device about making photography accessible to those who could enjoy the hobby before. And it is a 4K camera. Camera is a CyberShot DSC HX99. Features an 18 megapixel backside aluminum sensor with built-in image stabilization with a special view graph or viewer. I guess that's the way to say it. So a link will be up in the show notes on that. SpaceX has announced it's getting ready to test its Starlink satellite to cell phone service. Elon previously announced this. It would come to T-Mobile phones in 2023. During a panel at Satellite Conference and Exhibition, SpaceX VP of Starlink Enterprise Sales said the company had plans to start getting into testing its satellite to cell service. We're going to learn a lot by doing, not necessarily by overanalyzing, and getting there working through the telcos. He didn't say which telco SpaceX was working with, but the timeline certainly lines up with Musk's original vision for the T-Mobile partnership in August. And he promises Starlink V2, which is going to hopefully launch starting this year, would transmit direct to mobile phones and eliminate dead zones. So, again, got to get that spaceship going to get these V2s up in space. A lot of browser hijacking going on, and I think you guys should just kind of be aware of it. And if you notice something funny going on in your browser, please, please, please do a reset. This article that I'm going to link you to kind of walks you through that, talks about what can happen, ways that you can suddenly have issues with your browser for malware removal and or just some setting that got set that should not be set. For those of you that are into external power, the Explorer 3000 by Jackery, my goodness, can power just about anything. You can recharge it up off a 1,400 watts of solar panels as well. This thing is a monster. The Jackery Explorer 3000 Pro comes loaded with AC and DC ports to charge anything you throw at it. It's 64 pounds. Transport 3,024 watts of battery capacity. Unfortunately, though, Jackery still uses NMC battery chemistry instead of the more advanced lithium iron phosphate, which offers more charging cycles. So This is probably the only negative on this. You get probably about 1,000 charging cycles out of this. So just be fully aware. It's also being reported that ChatGPT could power voice assistants in General Motor vehicles. And they've been looking at using Microsoft Azure Cloud Service and OpenAI Tech to develop a new virtual vehicle assistant. So we will see. Do you think we're really that far along to trust that? First Tesla, now Nissan. Another EV recall to replace the steering wheel. So Nissan is recalling some of its newest Ariya electric SUVs this month. Another possibly loose steering wheel. As a result, automakers issued a stop sale for the new EV until inventory vehicles can all be inspected. The recall affects only 1,063 vehicles total. I'm getting iMessages here. The thing drives me crazy. I need to close this because it's getting ding, 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 ding. Samsung's been caught faking zoom photos of the moon. A viral Reddit post has revealed just how much processing company cameras apply to photos of the moon, further blurring the lines between real and fake imagery in the age of AI. So I'm not going to go into this as a pretty extensive article, but a lot of Samsung pictures in their advertising show the moon. And so I'll let you do the review if you have a Samsung phone. If you live in the UK, Rebel without a clause. It's an ISP that promises broadband with no contract. This ISP, started by former BT exec, claims to offer UK broadband customers a better deal, no contracts or installation fees, and a Wi-Fi service that actually works. Rebel Internet, launched today, and like the vast majority of ISPs, is selling a fiber broadband service via OpenReach Network, which means it's available nationally to over 29 million households. The company told us that the service starts at £35, and which is not the cheapest broadband available, but Rebel said that there are no installation fees and no contracts for customers to sign up. Again, fiber. Isn't that amazing? Think of what we pay here in the United States. NASA has identified a new asteroid that could impact Earth in 2046. Although NASA says there's a very small chance of impact, orbit analysis will continue to watch the asteroid named 2023 DW. When the new objects are first discovered, it takes several weeks of data to reduce the uncertainty. So NASA's given 2023 DW a 1 in 560 chance of hitting Earth on February 14th, 2046. And it is a 1 in 500. So explains that 2023 is a city buster. It's very, very big. So I guess we'll see. 2046. Yeah, I might still be here if I take care of myself. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's going to bring us to the end today. Email can be sent to geeknews@gmail.com, geeknews@gmail.com, at Geek News on Twitter. Don't forget about our sponsor at geeknewscentral.com/GoDaddy. Don't forget to get over to new podcasts or podcastapps.com and grab yourself a Podcasting 2.0 app. Participate in the Value for Value program. If I've given you value today, provide value back to the show in the form of fiat funds, which could include PayPal, a PayPal donation of $2, $5, $10, $15, $20, or $25, or whatever you want to give. Heck, fire it up. Or a Satoshi donation. We always kind of recommend at least 10,000 sats. If you send 10,000 sats, that's just, it's $2.50. So 50,000 sats or 100,000 sats or 200,000 or 1,000,000 sats, that's even better. But get involved in the Value for Value program. Use a podcast app over at podcastapps.com. My favorite two right now are Podverse and Fountain. You can find them over there or in the iOS App Store. It's been my pleasure to bring you the show today. I want to thank you so much for hanging out with me. Again, I was off last week because of a business trip to Nevada. I'm pretty tired of Vegas. Not really no longer fun to go to Vegas at all. But that's where the conference is at. So that's where I go. Do appreciate all of you ongoing support of the show that are insiders that are giving monthly contributions. Again, of $2, $5, $10, $15, $20, or $25. I continue to see those come in. I do appreciate every penny that you donate to the show. It's been my pleasure being a podcast. We'll see you all next time. Again, thank you for being here. Thank you for being part of the family. We'll see you next time here on the Geek News Central podcast. Everyone take care. Bye-bye.